So to be angry is never needed, whether or not someone did you wrong. See? Anger is to be avoided. It's not to justify my anger by saying, well, look what they did. Look what happened. Look at this situation. Of course I was angry. See? But that's not the highest understanding. That's not the highest truth. You see, that may be, people always like to say, this is my own truth. That may be your truth. But we're trying to learn how to see it from the highest level of truth and consciousness.
I found a quote in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or a purport by Bhaktivedanta Swami, that I found just so interesting and so to the heart, to the core. And he says, the egocentric attitude is a manifestation of the Rudra principle in the heart, wherein krodha, anger, is generated. This anger develops in the heart and is further manifested through various senses, like the eyes, hands, and legs. This is one part of it.
And then, were you thinking of doing the purport?
That is the purport.
That is the purport?
That is the purport.
Oh, I see. And then the next one is also the next purport. Oh, that's about salvation.
Yeah,
I see.
That's another one. That's another text. But that we don't normally see it that way. That anger is generated. It's the egocentric attitude is a manifestation of the Rudra principle in the heart, wherein anger is generated.
Mm-hmm. And then in the next purport, it said to get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. One should not make plans in order to be free from unlawful desires. By spiritual culture, one is able to conquer sleep. By tolerance only can one conquer desires and avarice. Anyway, that's another whole. It goes into a bunch of things.
Yeah, but this idea of the anger developing in the heart, in like that's another way to look at it, I think, then, because we normally see it like someone does something and naturally I would get angry. It's a natural response to someone's anger, and it even says on the internet, I was Googling this, like it's not always a bad thing, because it's just a reaction to what happens around you. It can do something good for you. It can motivate you to defend yourself, to set limits, to set borders. It's a problem when you don't manage it in a healthy way.
Well, that's not what the Vedas say. That was not a Vedic quote.
No. Starting with the Vedas and ending with a societal view of it.
Yeah, like anger's okay if you control it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we can start. We can start with this quote.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But what's that? What's, I mean, how? Yeah. So how is the Vedic perspective different from what I was reading? I was reading both perspectives now.
Well, the Vedic perspective is anger is never good unless it's used in service to the Supreme Lord. And Bhaktivedanta Swami, does refer to Arjuna in his, battle of Kurukshetra, fighting, at some moments would be angry at the opponent, but it wasn't a personal, selfish, self-interested anger. It was all, a part of his service to Krishna. So therefore it was transcendental anger, if you will. And it wasn't polluting his his whole being. Whereas Bhaktivedanta says, the anger that we know, personal anger, contaminates the whole body.
Yeah.
And it also, of course, contaminates the whole atmosphere. And it doesn't only contaminate us, but when we express anger, it contaminates, the whole atmosphere around us, which everybody's experienced.
Yeah.
It's just a dark, uncomfortable, unattractive, and oftentimes fearful experience when somebody's angry. So, the way we understand and display anger is something to be avoided, and we'll see how that is, described in this presentation by Acharya Das.
Because I guess such transcendental anger is not a common thing to see. It's not.
No, and if you get into that, then it turns into a lack of understanding. What is transcendental anger and what is not, and anyway, it just takes a person into a dimension of truth and understanding that is beyond a lot of people's ability to perceive it or correctly understand it and grasp it and appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it could be used as a excuse.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. Just like this quote from internet where I was looking about anger, that it says that, well, anger, it can prevent others from walking all over you. So it can prevent others from, it can do.
Yeah, but anger doesn't. There's other ways to do the same thing without being angry.
Yeah.
When you get angry, you lose your intelligence. You forget who you are really, and you just do stupid things. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of the truths of fighting. Let's say you have two people fighting, mm-hmm. and they could even be professional fighters, like boxers or MMA artists or whatever. And if one can get the other person, the opponent, angry, if they can, then they've got a much better chance of winning the fight.
Yeah,
because then the other one forgets all his techniques and he just starts going crazy. And he makes mistakes. He leaves himself open, and then you can get in there. So that's one of the real weapons against an opponent, is if you can get the opponent angry, then they're going to do stupid things. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to forget, all the training and or it doesn't have to be in a professional setting. If a person just gets angry in any kind of allocation, then they just start going crazy, and you can just stand back and, take your time and
that's true.
Do your job.
That's true.
So, yeah.
And
from lust comes anger. From anger comes loss of memory, loss of intelligence, delusion, all etc. that is described in Bhagavad Gita. Bewilderment of memory, loss of intelligence, etc.
So it's not a.
So
it's not a.
I don't support these philosophical viewpoints of these people that you're reading about, because it's just not supported. It's not evidence in our Vedic teaching, and it's also able to be seen. You can keep people from walking all over you without being angry, but when you get angry, things go weird real quick. Then you start saying things or doing things that are no good for anybody. So yeah.
And I could you say that anger is based on egocentric attitude. I'm hearing myself. Slav, I'm hearing myself.
I'm hearing you doubling,
Okay.
but that's not.
Okay. I think it's maybe better
now.
I still hear myself.
Can you turn yourself up a little bit? You're very quiet.
Yep. Better now?
Yeah.
No? But,
Yeah, so you were referring to a purport from Srimad Bhagavatam,
yeah.
third canto, chapter 12, text 11.
Yeah.
So why don't you read that quote?
So the egocentric attitude is a manifestation of the Rudra principle in the heart, wherein krodha, anger, is generated. This anger develops in the heart and is further manifested through various senses, like the eyes, hands, and legs. It's part of the purport.
Yeah, and I'm going to read something that was presented by a great friend of ours and a great master in this whole science of truth about anger. And it fits exactly with this. Of course it would, you know. And why it's described as the Rudra principle is because Lord Shiva was born out of anger. In other words, he's a manifestation. Anger is in the mode of ignorance. And so, that's the Rudra principle that is being referred to here. And so it's in the heart, In other words, we, the spirit soul, are in the heart. And so who's getting angry? I mean, dead bodies don't get angry.
Yeah.
When there's no principal personality there, then there's no anger. So it's actually coming from the heart, and that it's called krodha in Sanskrit language. And so it's generated in the heart. It's a manifestation of this Rudra principle. So this anger develops in the heart, and from there it further manifests through various senses, like eyes. I mean, when somebody's angry, they can shoot darts at you, right? You ever had that happen? Or their hands or their legs are kicking you, or, you could expand it to say their voice.
Speaking harsh
where they're
words.
Yelling and screaming and cursing and, saying bad things and trying to hurt you verbally or emotionally or whatever, see. So it's just an explosion of this Rudra principle.
Which is, you could call basically like the mode of ignorance.
Ignorance, yeah, the mode of ignorance. Lust, it says in Bhagavad Gita, if we trace it back, the Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, from contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment. See? So it starts contemplating whatever you're contemplating, which develops attachment. From attachment comes lust. See? First you're attached to the idea. Then that attachment expands into lust. Okay, now I want it. I'm going to have it. I need it. And as we know, lust is in the mode of passion. That's also described in Bhagavad Gita. Lust is born of contact with the modes of passion. So, lust comes from passion. So now I am controlled by the mode of passion. And then in that same statement, and from passion, wrath develops, which is later transformed into wrath. Or the other statement, from lust comes anger. So now we've gone from the mode of passion to the mode of ignorance.
Yeah.
Lord Shiva is the personality designated to be in charge of the mode of ignorance.
Yeah.
So now we've been dragged down into the mode of ignorance. So it all started in the heart. You see. So the reason there's so much anger in the world today is because, deep inside, everybody's controlled by lust, and the accompanying anger is always there. And it only takes a little spark to ignite it. Gasoline is volatile by nature, and it only takes one little spark to make it so it just explodes.
Yeah.
So that's the more we're in the mode of passion, lust, and therefore, also the accompanying anger, then the more any little thing will trigger this outburst, which is seen in the eyes or the hands or the legs or the verbal things or just the activity that follows. I mean, like road rage.
Yeah.
You've heard of that, perhaps. In America, it's quite common, really. Because people are just, on the edge because of all the stress and, the just struggle of life, and we're not satisfied, we're not happy, we're basically bummed. And somebody cuts in front of me too close, and that's the catalyst, that's the little spark. And, I just start screaming and pounding on the steering wheel, and then it goes to extremes where, they just drive up beside the guy that cut them off and shoot him. And it happens, it's not like an unknown incident. In fact, at one time in Los Angeles, when I was living there years ago, it was so much of this being, done on an all too regular basis. Somebody printed a bumper sticker, and it said, please, that you put on the back of the car, right?
Yeah.
Please don't shoot. No, I'm sorry. Please don't shoot. So, that's how volatile things are. And that's why some little, incident can create a protest, and it turns into a whole, anger-filled, violent situation. And then, if it goes to the further extremes, there's looting and there's burning and there's, people often extremely injured or killed. And, the police come in, and usually they fall under the influence of the whole story too. And, then there's, a big mess. See, but if everybody was free of that anger, then it wouldn't be a problem. And a protest could actually be peaceful if it was necessary. People felt it's necessary to protest. Then it could be a peaceful protest. We're stating our beliefs. We're stating our position on this issue. We don't agree with you. Usually it's the governments. And so here we are as citizens protesting, and it's happening everywhere in the world right now. But if you look at all the different accounts of protests, they usually turn violent in the end. And that's why the police come there with riot gear and, water cannons and rubber bullets and, stun grenades and all that equipment, because they understand, well, this is going to go, to the next level probably, and we got to have some way to deal with it. So it's a bad thing, and it's all coming from the heart. We just read.
I was gonna. So if we trace that back, that lust is coming. I mean, could that, is that a correct understanding that lust is generated from in our hearts, that we have a desire to enjoy all the things that we have around us. We have, so we develop an attachment for enjoying with our senses, and from that attachment lust develops.
Yes, yes. And the way society is structured now, that whole consciousness is
It's
promoted.
Yeah, yeah.
Through all the advertisements, through all the promises of happiness, through material acquisition, and all the things that the senses and the mind are exposed to are just agitating and promoting the mode of passion.
I see.
And mode of passion is automatically lust-filled.
Yeah.
You're not going to be in the mode of passion and not experience lust.
Yeah.
And lust is the perverted reflection of love. See? So when I read this from Acharya Das, it'll kind of, explain a lot of this that we're referring to.
Yeah.
So why don't we read that now?
Yeah.
And then perhaps make a few comments along the way. Anger, a tool which we often use for our personal gain, makes us lose sight of our spiritual identity. So anger is actually a tool which we use for our personal gain. Okay,
That's
I'm going to get something out of this. I'm going to control somebody. I'm going to conquer somebody. See, I'm going to be rewarded for this anger. This is the way I'll get what I want, kind of thing. That's lust. That's the whole concept of lust and anger.
But it's really not how I mean, it's a tool which we use for our personal gain. That's a complete different way of seeing anger. Just that first sentence is just, wow.
Yeah, it's very profound. And it makes us lose sight of our spiritual identity. See, you're not going to think, oh, I'm not the body, I'm spirit, soul, and, part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. When you're in this condition of anger, and that's your tool to get something personal.
Yeah, I see.
It brings nothing but pain to others and ourselves. It brings nothing but pain to others and ourselves. There you go. What do you get? It is an act born out of selfishness, and it cages us away from our spiritual nature. It's all about me. See, whether we look at it from sexual exploitation, domestic violence, or the road rage, or, the protest situation, or all these different places where anger is, so obvious, it's all born out of selfishness. I'm not getting what I want. You're not respecting me like you should. You're agitating me. You're in the way of my enjoyment. And on the story goes. So it's an act born out of selfishness, and it cages us away from our spiritual nature. And the way Acharya Das uses this visual, mentally visual phrase, cages us away from our spiritual nature. Our spiritual nature is, I'm a spirit soul. I see everyone as, equal, part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. It's not about me. Humility is a part of our spiritual nature. You see, etc. So anger actually puts us in a cage away from our spiritual nature. Automatically so.
Which is what we want to get closer through, to be happy. That's what we want to get.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. When you put a wild animal in a cage, you've taken them away from their natural environment.
Yeah.
And all that's left for them is frustration and suffering, and they're not happy. A wild animal caged up is not happy. And so, we're just in that same category. It cages us away from our spiritual nature, which is happiness. mercy, care, compassion, humility, love, etc. And that's the next, sentence. Love, true love, on the other hand, is an expression of selflessness. So we've gone from selfishness to selflessness. It is the complete opposite of anger. So, there's no denying that this is better. We have a true nature, and then we have a contaminated, perverted nature. Love is our true nature, completely selfless. It's all about helping others, mercy, compassion to others, and I myself am, humble, no arrogance here, no self-aggrandizement. See, so it's the opposite of anger. It is the complete opposite of anger. When we are angry, we lose the ability to empathize with the other person. See, we can't see their point of view. We can't see their suffering. We can't empathize with their difficulties that they're struggling with. Maybe their activity that we may presume to be directed toward us. We can't, understand, well, that's because of this. We can't empathize with that. They're guilty 100%.
Exactly. And they get angry and they respond the same, and then the anger just builds up because both are in that attitude. Yeah. It's just like fire on top of fire. Yeah. One fire creates another fire. So, everybody loses here. So we lose the ability to empathize with the other person. We're bewildered. We just can't be who we should be in relation with them. When we are angry, the act of inflicting pain upon others is born out of anger and the lack of compassion. And isn't that also a desire that springs up when we're angry? I want to inflict pain on this other person. I want to hurt them. And so, as we've already, discussed, it could be verbal abuse. I want to cut them with my words. My tongue becomes like a sword. See, I want to belittle them. I want to put them down, crush them with my words. I go deep to try to bring out, what might hurt them the most. I'm just thinking, why do we do that? What is it? I know this is a perverted sort of way of thinking, but why? What is the goal of doing that in that way of thinking?
Because we're angry, and anger controls us. Yeah. That's the mode of ignorance.
Yeah.
It's not, we lose control.
Yeah.
We're out of control. Anger's in control now.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Think of it, in a term that I think most everybody could relate to. Let's say you're a nice guy in general. You're just a calm, nice guy. Then you drink a bottle of vodka. And, you're now under the influence of that alcohol. And it changes you completely. And maybe you're one of those people that when you get drunk, there's two different kinds of drunks. There's an angry drunk and a happy drunk.
Yeah, that's true.
You see. But let's say you're the angry drunk, and you start doing crazy things, hurting people and breaking things and, cursing people and all kinds of things that you would never do. You would never do that when you were sober. Now, you could say, well, why did you do that? Because they didn't do it. Yeah. The alcohol did it. Yeah. And there's even a saying, oh, don't pay any attention to the guy. That's just the alcohol talking. It means nothing. Yeah. See? So when we're under the influence of anger, it's not us doing it. The anger is just making it so that's the feeling we have, the desire we have, the reaction we have, and et cetera, et cetera.
And
So that's the danger of falling under this control.
yeah, and the more we let ourselves be in that state, the more engaged we become. The more entrapped we become.
So, and it's born out of, so the act of inflicting pain upon others is born out of anger and the lack of compassion. See, how can I have compassion when I'm under this influence? See, it's gone, it evaporates. This puts us in a cage where we are disconnected from our true spiritual nature. To feel compassion for others, to wish well for them. See? That's true spiritual nature. To feel compassion for others, to wish well for them. See, but we lost that ability. You see, we're in that cage. A person who inflicts pain. A person who inflicts pain to others will experience the same thing himself. It does not matter if it happens immediately or in the future, justice will always be there. What is this referring to? Law of karma. You know, everything you do is going to come back on you. What goes around comes around. So, whatever pain and injury and conflict and whatever that you put on somebody else, it's going to come back to you. It might happen right now, or it might happen sometime in the future. But it will happen. This is the point. So again, nobody wins here. You're hurting yourself. You know, and even if you win, you think, you say, oh, I won that argument. I defeated that person. You know, they were going to do something to me and I just took them out, whatever it is, you know. You don't win. It's coming back to you. See? Yeah. You will suffer the result of that. But even if you know about the law of karma, let's say you do, and you not only know about it, you believe it. You have faith, yes, that's how the universe is structured. When you're angry, you forget all that. Bewilderment of memory, loss of intelligence. See, all that knowledge and all that, you know, truth is just gone because you're in this cage. You've been put in the cage. Yeah. So, to be angry is never needed whether or not someone did you wrong. Yes. So all the people that say, well, sometimes anger is necessary.
Yeah.
You got to believe one of these truths here's two statements. You got to believe one is true and the other is not.
Yeah.
You know. So to be angry is never needed whether or not someone did you wrong. See? Anger is to be avoided. You know, it's not to justify my anger by saying, well, yeah, well, look what they did. Look what happened. Look at this situation. Of course I was angry. See? But that's not the highest understanding. That's not the highest truth. You see? That may be, people always like to say, this is my own truth. That may be your truth. But we're trying to learn how to see it from the highest level of truth and consciousness. So, again, anger is never needed whether or not someone did you wrong. Forgiveness is the cure for anger. There you go. If anger is a problem, which it is, then we need a cure. We need a solution. And it's given right here. Forgiveness is the cure for anger. Forgiveness is not a matter to be taken lightly. it is not just saying, I forgive you. But deep down, you still hold on to the anger inside you. Sooner or later, it will burst.
You can't hide it. It's going to come out at some time, some point or another.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's easy to say, oh, yes, I forgive you. And inside, you're still just fuming.
Exactly.
You know, you're just so angry. You know, it's interesting that they associate colors with different moods. You ever notice that?
Yeah, like red, angry.
Anger is the color red.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's fire, it's hot. Lust and anger are red in color.
Yeah.
You know, whereas, you know, the mood of goodness and compassion and so on, that's kind of like white.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe blue,
Yeah.
you know, soothing colors, you see. So, yeah, it's red hot. And that's why people's face turns so red. You know, it's just the symbol of, I'm so angry. Say, oh, I forgive you, and you're just cherry red. You know, but whether it's displayed like that or it's hidden, it's not. You know, it's not just some cheap thing and say, yeah, I forgive you, no problem. Do you really forgive in the heart? Because that's where it is, right? We just read that. You know, that's where the anger, that's where the forgiveness has to be done, is in the heart.
I remember you said in a previous talk we had about this. This is with yoga meditation on stream. You said that forgiveness is it's a heartfelt decision to grow. Heartfelt decision.
Yeah. And it says here, sooner or later it will burst. And that's what I was speaking about. Unfortunately now, you know, so many people are so angry and it just burst.
Mm.
You know, one little thing and there you go.
Triggers it.
That's all it took. You know. So let's say in a domestic relationship, which is where the most anger is displayed on a regular basis, truthfully speaking, you know, unfortunately so. Everything's going good and no conflict. And then all of a sudden, boom. And it wasn't because, you know, she squeezed the toothpaste from the middle instead of the bottom. You know. You look at his toothpaste. No, that's not it. It was there. And that's what happened. It just burst.
Yeah.
You know. And you may be under the illusion to yourself. Oh, I'm not angry. Everything is cool. Everything's calm. But it's in the heart. And, you know, they do one little thing. They say one little thing that you don't like. You know, they prepare some food that's a little too salty, you know. And there you go. In Russia, you know, there's a kind of a joke, you know, where, you know, conflict breaks out in a domestic situation, you know, and the husband's so angry, you know, you put too much salt in the soup. And it's not the salt. It's just the catalyst. That's what happens, you see. Sooner or later it will burst. You have to learn to forgive others despite their wrongdoings. To feel compassion and wish well for someone no matter what they have done to you. But a key word here is learn. We must learn it. See, we must learn these things. Yeah. Because under the modes of passion and ignorance, and that's what most of us are under the control of, we're ignorant. We don't know these things. We got to learn it. You know, we've got to develop the cure for anger is, you know, forgiveness. You've got to cultivate that. You've got to learn that. You see, it's just not going to happen automatically. So the whole yoga lifestyle, the whole process of, you know, becoming more and more in the mode of goodness and out of from under the control of the mode of passion and, you know, seeing, the whole world in a different light, and contemplating the Supreme Lord, and all the wonders and the activities I can do to please the Lord. All that, you see, is going to cultivate another condition of heart. It's going to purify the heart. The anger in the heart's a contaminant. So we've got to work on a deeper level than just in the mind. I forgive you, no problem. You see, but that's not where it took place.
Yeah.
Really, it's deep. It's deep.
Or just holding back the anger and just suppressing it, and then it turns somewhere else, or turns to yourself, or turns wherever into.
Yeah, that's where we've got to go and just root it out.
Yeah.
But we don't root it out. We've got to practice that which does root it out. We've got to learn how to live. We've got to learn how to see other people. We've got to learn how to treat other people. We've got to learn how to cultivate humility and compassion. See? Because we don't know those things. Mm-hmm. We know of those things, perhaps. Maybe we can even agree. Really, who wouldn't agree? That would be wonderful. Yeah. Some people wouldn't agree. Actually, I think, it's so far gone. But in general, people would agree. Yeah, that's wonderful. That sounds so wonderful. But it takes more than that. We've got to change that. Like if you're sick with COVID, wouldn't it be wonderful to be well? Yeah, but you've got to do something, or, any disease we might have, obesity or heart disease or whatever. Wouldn't it be nice to be skinny, and feel just so light and lively every day? Yeah. And everybody would agree, yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
See? Okay, but you got to do something to achieve that. Sitting on the couch eating burgers is not going to bring that about.
And think about how it would be to be thin, and that you'd like to be thin, and you need to.
And just envision going to the beach, and you're looking good, you're feeling good,
adjusting.
No, you got to get off the couch. You got to put it into action. So in the same way, we've got to learn how to cleanse the heart. How to root out this krodha, this anger, and that's the whole bhakti yoga process. Gradually purifying.
Because I just wanted to, sometimes when we speak about these things, in my world, my experience is more, I'm not maybe like bursting out in that anger, but sometimes I feel this, it comes out more in the form of frustration, of getting easily irritated at most often at Lynn, because my wife, that's most often in the most intimate relationships when you have that, and you have, but then I guess the lesson would be, okay, so then I have to not just rethink, but apply this bhakti yoga process more diligently, be more focused on it, do my meditation more focused.
Yes, but at the same time, when those frustrations begin to arise, you got to recognize it and make a strong effort to control it.
Yeah.
See? Yeah, eventually when the heart is pure, it's all done. See? But when it's not like that, we have to control it. I got to control my tongue. I got to control, my senses on all levels.
Right.
See, with intelligence, with understanding.
Right.
This is not good. I'm the one who has to implement that discipline and that control. So when we feel the frustrations coming and so on, I got to just back off. And if we look deep and analyze it, it's because somehow this is interfering with my enjoyment.
Yeah.
This is in the way of how I want things to be.
Yeah.
And so who's the enjoyer here? And it always comes back, I am. I'm attached to my enjoyment, to my situation, to how I want it to be, to how I want you to be.
Yeah.
I want you to be the way I want you to be, But that's a pipe dream, That's why they make robots, so you can program them the way you want them to be. It's not like they have a consciousness and a will of their own, But, living entities aren't robots. So you've got to be tolerant and just accept that and compassionate and just, tolerance is a huge virtue, huge, and these, intimate relationships, it's required a lot more than if you're not in those kind of situations, That's why when people get married, it turns into another whole story. Because before, when you're just by yourself, you can kind of do what you want. And I might like some people the way they do things or what's some situation, but it's temporary, short-lived. You can walk away from it. It's not. But when you're married to somebody, it's in your face all the time.
Yeah.
And so therefore you if you can't develop tolerance, then things aren't going to go so well. I got to tolerate them, and they have to tolerate me. It has to go both ways. Okay, I don't like the way you do this. You don't like the way I do that. I'll try to change. You try to change, but let's tolerate each other as much as possible. Because that's all in that same category of anger, and it's just another form, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You don't maybe burst and start physically or even verbally doing something, but it's it's still in the same arena, let's say, of things we got to learn, we got to work on. Humility, compassion, tolerance, the great virtues that they are. So we are not denying that what is wrong is wrong. This is another nice point. We are not denying that what is wrong is wrong. See? And some people think if I forgive somebody, I'm saying, well, what you did is okay. That's what we might think. Yeah. And I know it wasn't okay, so therefore I'll never forgive you. Yeah. No, we're not saying what they did is right, if it wasn't. Not denying that what is wrong is wrong. But when will we know peace if we don't learn to forgive? To forgive is to set yourself free from anger that causes tremendous suffering for everyone. You forgive. It's not like you're saying what you did is right, but you've just set yourself free from that whole story of anger and frustration, And now you're free. Now you can be peaceful. And it's not easy. We're not saying any of this is easy, but it becomes, possible and easier when we apply the process that we're always encouraging other people to apply. Yeah. And it's more likely if we're knowing these things and applying the process that we'll look at ourselves and see our misconduct.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's hard to look at yourself and see that you're wrong. It's your fault. You're the one that's really, to blame here. Yeah. But the more we know these truths and accept it as true and apply the process, the easier it is for me to do that. And that's a long ways toward solving the problem.
Because when you see that, you see that, wow, I'm so imperfect. Then, of course, why wouldn't I tolerate and be compassionate towards others who have imperfections?
Yeah.
Myself.
And look at my imperfection. I'm just,
Yeah, I see that.
So time's running out, but let's move quickly. Mm-hmm. To hold on to your anger and not forgive does not change circumstances or a person. See, doesn't change the circumstances. It doesn't change the person. In forgiveness, you set yourself free from the cage of anger. Back to the cage, such a beautiful example.
Mm.
It is very significant for our peace, happiness, and spiritual growth. You can't grow when you're in the cage of anger. You can't have peace there. So you can't be happy there. So if you want any and all of those things, then we have to set ourselves free from the cage of anger. Forgiveness allows you to connect with your spiritual nature, to seek that which is eternal, that which is good. Mm-hmm. So, and, we're not, my instruction has been always from our spiritual master, and it's not my instruction, everybody's instruction. Focus on the eternal and not the temporary. We're trying to perfect the temporary, to have it like we want it. We think that'll make me happy, that'll make me peaceful, But that's not true. Focus on the eternal, see? And all this imperfect world, including our imperfections, other people's imperfections, and everything else involved, will not be the issue that it is if we're focusing on the issue. If we're focusing on the eternal, knowing that the material world is imperfect, place for the soul to find happiness and peace and satisfaction, then we got a different perspective. We got another whole concept of ourself and others and life.
And we have...
So, but it's not going to happen just by reading the truth, and agreeing. We have to implement, do the work. We all got a lot of work to do. Every day we'll find, oh, geez, there it is again. I got to work. See? And when we're frustrated and angry, look at it, say, oh, I see, it's because of, I was attached to this interfered with my happiness, and blah, 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 blah. Haribo, Haribo, Nitai go, Haribo. That's really, brings us back to reality. They focus on the eternal, not the temporary. And the more we can do that, the more we'll be successful.
And that is where true strength lies, not in losing the plot and being angry, but doing this slow practice and getting out of that cage, being
don't expect to happen overnight.
Mm.
Patience is another virtue. If you're impatient, that just shows that you're not understanding what we got here in front of us. You see, yeah. Okay, Ruben, I think we got a chant now.
Yeah.
That's the secret. We can talk about all the things, but if we don't chant, it's really not going to be, We're going to do a follow-up to this whole thing with an actual practice. We'll be reading some further information about this whole subject, But not only reading information, but actually practicing, what we should practice to get out of the cage.
Perfect.
So that'll be in an upcoming, session.
Great.
Okay, everybody, we know the mantra, Oranga Haribol.
Yep.
Easy and potent. And at least while we're doing the chanting, the meditation, just try to relax and forget. Even if you're angry, just let that anger go away. Just let it go away. See, let the mantras be the main focus, the peace and the tranquility of the mantras.
Even if something that we said made you angry or upset.
Yeah, even if what we said made you angry, let this mantra meditation take care of it. Goranga, Goranga Haribo, Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo. Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo. Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
Hare Haribo.
Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo. Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
Haribo, Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
Hare Haribo.
Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
Haribo, Goranga,
Haribo, Goranga,
Goranga Haribo.
Goranga Haribo.
Haribo, Goranga,
Haribo, Goranga,
Goranga Haribo.
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 All right, so that's our Sankirtan. And that's the cure for the problems, all problems. Yeah. So simple, so easy, so readily available to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Okay, Ruben. So it's been a nice session. I hope, we all gained some insights that we didn't have before.
Mm.
And as I say, this is a subject that applies to everybody.
Mm.
Who hasn't been angry? Who hasn't been disturbed? And on it goes. Everybody, we all.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What we're trying to do, make it so, things that are relevant to our life are what we discuss.
Real.
All right, so thank you very much for, the session.
Thank you, Malcolm. Yeah.
Break and trail. Let's break some trail.
Yeah. Going places. we
Okay,
haven't been
Ruben, I got
before.
to run, so thank you so much.
Yeah.
Haribo to everybody there.
Thank you. And Lynn told me, she said explicitly that I need to tell you, wish you well and send her regards.
All right, thank you. And also, pass it on to Frank and Yanna.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk. I'll
Yeah.
call you on Skype soon.
Okay.
Maybe not today, but soon.
Okay. Cool. And
All right, namaste, Haribo.
Haribo, namaste. See you soon, and see everyone else the next session
Yeah.
for
Yeah, thank
Practical.
everyone for joining.
yeah.